All right, so if you've got a pool or a spa, one of the things you know is you always have to constantly be topping up the pool because you will lose water over time. Uh, Thankfully, I have a hard roof above my spa, so I don't lose as much, but you're still going to lose water over time from evaporation. And, this sunlight still does get into it. And since I have a roof, I also don't get rainwater in it, so I still do lose water. Thankfully, this is the wet season right now here in Florida, so I don't lose as much. But the dry season in the winter, you lose a lot. I lose about like a centimeter a day. So I'm always constantly having to top up the pool. Now, the pool builders, they gave me the option of putting a water leveler in, a Jandy water leveler. And they actually recommended not doing it because they say they fail a lot. When it fails, there's a chance you flood your pool if someone's not around. So I instead made my own system in Home Assistant, and I have a lot of safety checks that I've written into it, and some of them physical, some of them in the software, and I'm going to go over how I built it and what I wrote in the software for the safety checks at the end of the video. So let's start with the physical stuff first. Head to my pump over here. You see I got my pump system all over here, the heater and whatnot. Now, the water leveler, it starts with this Sonoff smart water valve, and that comes from the 3/4 drain, 3/4 faucet, and I have that going into a 1/4-inch irrigation tube, which I have going along the side of my house, and then it goes underneath the rocks over here to protect it from the landscapers who would end up chopping it up because landscapes are terrible. And then it goes into the drainage pipe into my enclosure all the way across. Now this is a 1/4-inch tubing, and then that goes to this spout I have 3D printed over here in ABS. Now the reason why the tip is a different color is I ran out of gray filament, but the tip is actually another reducer, and I'm reducing it from a 1/4-inch to an 1/8-inch spout because it's about 5 feet from the edge of my pool, and I want it to reach because I didn't want to dig up anything else underneath here and drill any holes or anything. So this is completely non-destructive to my pool. So let me turn that on, and I've got the Home Assistant. I have a button for it right here, so I'm gonna click that button. Hold on, there it goes. And now the spout has turned on, and the water is going directly into my pool. It usually doesn't fly this far, but I guess the pressure is high enough right now that it usually lands somewhere over here, but it is fine. Now this is going to run for 10 minutes and then stop. So this I have run automatically every day at 10 a.m. and it runs for 10 minutes, and it's not dependent on Home Assistant for that 10-minute cutoff. Like I said, I'll go into the programming and the safety checks towards the end of the video. Now, like I said, this is an 1/8-inch spout, and inside here you can see I have my drainage hole, and the drainage hole is actually a 1/2 inch. So the water should never really enter faster than it could drain out. But if for some reason the drainage gets clogged and I'm in danger of flooding the pool, underneath here I've got another 3D printed mount with a moisture sensor. And the moisture sensor is very simple. If the moisture sensor ever hits water because the pool is filling up too fast, it automatically stops the water valve. See, I put that under the water and it stopped. And then of course it won't turn back on till 10 a.m. the next day. And you know, that's the physical safety check. I've got the drainage spout, and then I have the water sensor above the drainage spout, just in case the water level ever goes above the drainage spout, which it shouldn't really ever do, unless there's a hurricane which is causing a lot of splashing, uh, in which case I wouldn't really want that on anyways, or the water jets are on. Again, there's no reason for that to be on if someone's in the pool using the water jets. All right. And then let me head back to my computer, and then we can see how I've implemented this all and the further safety checks within Home Assistant. All right, now that we're at my computer, we can look at the automations I have controlling this. Now, I don't actually use the GUI interface. I like to program things. It gives me finer control and whatnot. So, but let's look at the first automation. And that, yeah, I'm just bringing up the GUI so that it's easier to read. But the code is here on the right. As you can see, it triggers at 10 a.m. And it will also, then there's a series of safety checks. Let's start at the bottom. If the water sensor is not dry, so basically if the water sensor is wet, then it's going to say I'm not going to start filling the pool because it's currently overflowing already. So, that's the first check. Then the two checks above it I have for battery levels. Both the water sensor and the water valve, the Sonoff Zigbee sensors I have installed are battery powered. They're not plugged in anything. Now, the battery should last anywhere from 2 years to 5 years. At least that's what they claim. But what it's going to do is check to make sure that the battery levels on both those devices are above 5%. Why 5%? Well, firstly, that's actually a double check. First thing we'll do is to make sure that the sensors and the valve are connected to the network, because if they're not currently connected, if they're somehow disconnected from Zigbee or Home Assistant, it will list as unknown instead of being a numeric above 5. So make sure they're connected to the network. Then I want them to be above 5 because I don't want somehow the battery dies before the sensor can turn off in case there is a flood. So it also just makes sure that there's always enough power. But the most important safety check is the action. Instead of just turning the valve on and off after 10 minutes, turning it off after 10 minutes through Home Assistant would be a failure point, because what if Home Assistant crashes in between those 10 minutes? So what I do is, instead, the Sonoff water valve has a internal system where you can tell it to do a timed regulation, a timed irrigation. So I'm telling it, run a single term at 300 seconds. Oh, I'm sorry, I have it set to 5 minutes, not 10 minutes. But if I want to do 10 minutes, I can say 600 seconds. All right, so it's going to run for a single term of 600 seconds, and then it's going to turn off. And that is irrespective of Home Assistant. That is in the water valve itself. So if Home Assistant goes down, it's fine, because the water valve itself will shut itself down after 600 seconds. And I believe that if the water valve runs out of power, it will also close itself automatically, because it is a solenoid valve, not a physical valve. So it needs power to hold the solenoid open, so that if it loses power, the battery dies, it will close automatically. So that is another safety check there. So it can never run longer than 600 seconds being turned on this way. So that is a great safety check. So I'm in no danger of flooding the pool from the water valve. Now, there is possibly a failure point with the water sensor, because I believe the sensor points on the water sensor are copper, and those can corrode over time, especially being exposed to water. So that is a failure point, but the 10-minute limit does alleviate that failure point. But okay, so this is the water on automation. Now, the other automation is based on the sensor that I mentioned before. When the water sensor changes to wet, shut it off. And of course, this will only run if the water valve is currently on. And I also have a secondary activation point where it automatically checks every 10 minutes, just in case Home Assistant froze or crashed at the exact moment that water sensor changed to wet. It will also check because the water change to wet is on changing. And if the changing gets missed, I still want the periodic check every 10 minutes. And then it will turn it off. So this is just another set of safety checks. So anyway, that's pretty much how I have it programmed. You can see my two automations up here. This is the check for wet, and this is start on dry. Anyways, peace out.